Fox News Alert. Moments ago, we received this together. We received a statement from the DHS regarding the $59 million sent from FEMA to New York City migrants last week. Quote, 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City.
New York City Hall responded to those claims from DOGE about the FEMA funds, saying, quote, the previous administration left New York City largely on its own to manage an international humanitarian crisis. We have worked to minimize the costs of this crisis and have negotiated service costs to ensure that we are not wasting taxpayer dollars. We've already spent over $7 billion in the crisis alone, and the previous administration committed only $237 million in funding to help house the migrants in our care and for future services. We will discuss this matter directly with federal official. Josh Levine joins me now. John Levine, forgive me, John. $59 million to house these migrants in the most expensive luxury hotels that exist in America today. Does that make any sense? And they didn't deny it, by the way.
No, they're like, well, it wasn't all hotels, a little bit here, a little bit shelter services, security. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's $59 million or $1 million or 1 cent. It's the taxpayer money spent on people who shouldn't be here, who are here illegally and are being sent home now because of that.
Let me ask you a question. If you had access to your employer's bank account where you could authorize payments, and you were explicitly told not to send money for a certain purpose, but you went ahead and wired $59 million anyway, completely disregarding the rules, what do you think would happen to you? Well, that's exactly what Mary Coleman's, the CFO of FEMA, just did, and now she's been fired along with 3 other employees. According to the Department of Homeland Security, these firings happened after FEMA secretly funneled $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City to house migrants, bypassing leadership that was actively working to deport them. For those who don't remember, all of the migrants pouring into New York City pushed the local government to the brink of bankruptcy. The scandal exploded when Elon Musk exposed it on X. He said the DOGE team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. The 4 officials terminated include Mary Coleman's, FEMA's chief financial officer, 2 program analysts, and a grant specialist. The new DHS Secretary Christie made it clear. She said DHS will not sit around and allow deep state activists to undermine the will and safety of the American people. And Elon Musk doubled down. He said that $59 million was meant for American disaster relief, not high-end hotels for illegals. The leader of DOGE went on to say a clawback demand will be made to recoup those funds. $59 million. Can you believe it? No wonder FEMA was running out of money last year. When disaster struck in places like North Carolina and Florida, Americans in crisis were left stranded. A lot of them just being offered only $750 in relief, while FEMA was busy putting migrants in 5-star accommodations. Now we know exactly why FEMA had no funds left for actual American disasters. Absolutely disgraceful.
And to find out that FEMA used $59 million to house immigrants in fancy hotels. But when my house flooded from Helene, because it was like a 1 in 1,000-year flood, like places that never flooded before flooded because of like creeks and drainage and all that stuff, I got 0 from FEMA. People in North Carolina got $750. I mean, what's that going to do? I mean, how many of y'all, $750 is going to be just food for the month? A few bills. But $59 million to house illegal immigrants that have not paid into the system 1 cent.
Yeah, now we see why. That's a hurricane victim, Hurricane Helene. She couldn't get help, but FEMA rolled out the red carpet for illegal migrants in New York City, had them comfortable in plush hotels, paying twice as much as market rate, and guess who's paying for it? Us, American citizens.
Now, one of the latest reports out of the DOGE team is that it has discovered FEMA sent $59 million last week, not over a year, just last week, $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. Now, of course, that money is meant for American disaster relief, and instead it's being spent on high-end hotels for illegals. I mean, Emily, what do you make of this?
Beyond the fact that they're just ignoring Trump's executive order with fearing no consequences, beyond that fact is that there are so many American citizens who work so hard, they pay their taxes, they came into this country legally, they assimilated, they are still waiting for this money from FEMA because their homes have been destroyed by hurricanes. Kristi Noem's working on it right now in her district, but there's people whose neighborhoods, their houses have been destroyed completely and that are homeless right now. And imagine them watching the news and you see that illegal immigrants who disrespected our country by crossing the borders are now being rewarded for the illegal actions by a bureaucratic agency that we didn't put them there. And now they're wasting our money. It's just really disgraceful.
The amount of money, it's just hard to keep up with. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, $59 million. And it wasn't last month or last year. They did this last week. They blatantly ignored executive orders that prohibited this and sent the $59 million anyway. What do I think should happen to them? The same thing that happens to anyone else who commits robbery, 25 to life. This wasn't someone stealing $5 or even $500. They stole $59 million. That's grand theft on a massive scale. One big old scam funded by taxpayers. This is exactly the kind of corruption and misappropriation of funds that I hope DOGE keeps exposing because this is absolutely insane. Yeah, throw Mary Comas in there for 25 to life and don't stop there. Slap them all with the same RICO charges they love to throw at everybody else. Go pick up Mary, those 3 employees, and every single person involved in this fraud. Because let's be clear, they stole $59 million from FEMA and handed it over to illegal migrants, people who aren't even citizens. FEMA is supposed to help Americans, not illegal immigrants. They've been doing this quietly, allowing all these folks to run in here by the millions. And what happened because of this? They ran FEMA's budget dry. Citizens in places like North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee got left with scraps. I remember at one point they had those people over in tents, while FEMA bankrolled luxury hotels for people who shouldn't even be here. So yeah, lock them up, and while we're at it, these companies need to get it too. They need to return every single dollar. Up here giving away all this money, and it's mainly the congressmen and congresswomen, like the Congressional Do Nothing Black Caucus, that's throwing all this money on illegals. But what money or economic development have they stood 10 toes down on for Black Americans? They've done nothing, but they're really quiet now though.
Congresswoman, what do you have to say about the fact that FEMA just spent $59 million housing illegal immigrants while people in Western North Carolina lived in tents for the past 4 months? What do you have to say about that? Do you accept that? Do you accept that? Do you accept the fact that because DOGE exposed that today, it sounds like you have a big problem with the fact that DOGE. I'm not blocking her. I'm not blocking. Excuse me. We're gonna make a little. Is that? Are you okay with that? Do you condemn the fact that DOGE exposed FEMA for sending $59 million to those illegal immigrants today? Do you condone that?
The CFO of FEMA got caught going behind Trump's back. I'm going to send $60 million to Manhattan so Biden migrants can keep staying at luxury hotels. And now she's out of a job. Nearly $1 billion of wasteful contracts were ripped up yesterday. A contractor was paid $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at one mail center.
Because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants, all illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Musk, can I ask you a question?
Well, if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, you say, well, what are the 2 ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really 2 things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%, and that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion. Between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's, the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not
simple stuff.
It's
like,
a lot of work. Yeah.
You can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere, maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking about. Normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good. Yeah. And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
Mr. Musk, President Trump.
Yeah, not only should Mary Coleman's and every single person who defied orders and funneled that $59 million last week be fired, they should be charged. Federal charges right now, because job termination isn't enough. If any of us pull this stunt, we wouldn't just be unemployed, we'll be locked up. Akon, they won't let us out. And let's talk about these companies, the ones cashing in on these shady contracts, the hotels charging double the market rate to house illegal migrants on the taxpayer's dime. They need to be forced to pay back every last cent or face prosecution. This entire operation is a scam. They're out here stealing millions. It's blatant, it's corrupt, and it's completely out of order. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Tell me what you think about this mess below. Special thank you to Charles H. I appreciate you, Charles, for all of your support for the channel, as well as Emmett and Starlet. Thank you, Emmett and Starlet, for your contributions. You can show your support as well. The link to PayPal is below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to like and share.